shit almost broke our relationship too, man. That's like,
So
are you stretching it? I am stretching it. Are you? I told you to tug it a little more left. No, but nah, shit was a hassle, but we made it through.
So fun fact, they only heard me that first couple minutes there, and the first thing they heard was that almost broke up our relationship. So welcome to the show, everybody. It's David Flores. No. Hi, everybody. Once again, this is Marcos. This is Alyssa. We weren't talking about anything really important other than David buying our merchandise. But the reason why I bring up that he bought our merchandise is because I bought some of his merchandise. Stone wrappings, man. I have it real close to my effects. So like I was going through a rough time last year, as a lot of you know, and I was like, David, I need the power of crystals, dog. I need something to help me out. And David has, was it Stone Wrappings? Is that the name of it on Instagram? Yeah. And I was like, find me something that will help me with my chakras and all that stuff. Let me see if I can get it in focus. There it is. It's a really beautiful piece that he handmade himself. And I got it around Christmas time, and I was super stoked about it. And as soon as I started wearing it, I started getting good. Oh, actually, you had to charge it. You had to put it in the sun, which I did. And then I started wearing it, and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to break this thing because it's, like, really nice. And it kept catching on stuff because I'm a clumsy klutz. But the good juju started coming, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear it. Plus, like, and I'm not a crystals guy. I think I told him this. But, like, I'll take it. At that time, I'd take anything that helped, and so I'll throw it on every once in a while if I need some vibes. And it's also good that I have just a piece of my friend from college. Reminds me of the good time. Yay. And it's pretty as hell. It's a really beautiful purple. I forgot what stone it is, but it's a purple. Dark.
It's a purple fluorite.
Right. And it's like a arrow point, man. I dig it.
It came to you in the right time, man. We like to say that, things come to you along your journey when it's supposed to happen, and I'm glad we're able to help a little bit along the way, man.
Absolutely, man. But back to that wallpaper. It's dope.
I'm actually glad that wallpaper's making a comeback, really.
For real. It's just, it's an easy way to spruce up, lively up your space, man. We came in here with that fucking eggshell yellow everywhere.
I'm like, y'all did us dirty. And, so we changed it up to this gray, gray's in right now. I don't know, that light gray.
That's sleek.
That's extra.
Dang, man.
Presión us up. We made the modifications, so it was cool. We're like, we just won't get our $1,000 deposit back. That's all right.
That's fine. Damn, $1,000 deposit.
You weren't going to get it back anyway.
Yeah, I've never had a deposit back ever in my life.
And so me and David go back to when we were trying to get the deposit back. Me and David go back a long time, college. So David knows a different version of me that a lot of you don't know or can allude to. So like Marcos knows who I truly am, David, and you know who I truly am. You know me for 10 years. But there was a good term, and I still use this, that you and one of your best friends, Oscar, at the time, you guys still talk, right? And hang out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying they can't hear David.
Yeah, I fixed it. Everyone's good now. But schmuck, because we used to call everybody schmucks, and I was like, oh, I think I was the whole time a schmuck. The whole time I was there at UCSB, like,
yeah. We all were. We were a mess, bro. I mean, you think about it. It's like you're fresh out of high school. It's your first time being independent. You don't realize in the moment you're just like living it up and trying to get by.
Just figuring it out, man.
Wild, kind of toxic, but hella fun, unforgettable, and plenty learning experiences along the way. So I wouldn't change a bit.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
We love fuzzy nights.
A lot of fuzzy nights. There was the ones I vividly remember that I was physically out of control for. One of the days in particular, I've told on another podcast, I left you out of it. You're one of the players in that. But you made me dinner that one time. Let's just say it was a summer day, doing a particular thing, every couple hours, and I couldn't move. And you went to the grocery store, came back, cooked up this delicious meal. I was just like melted in a chair, and I was like, you're a saint. And I was just grubbing hard, playing FIFA. I don't even know how to play FIFA. It was like, that's one of like the best days of my life in that college time, and you were a part of it. It was just, I don't know if I ever told you that, but that shit was the funniest day.
Glad, man. Yeah, Sam didn't dabble too much, so
yeah,
it was nice to see him dabbling and relaxing and letting loose, bringing the fucking shoulders down. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right,
Oh shit.
damn, I like
That's
to
still
see a
true
little bit.
today, bro.
The shoulders don't go down. They don't go down. No.
What about y'all? Did y'all go to college as well? What was that like? If y'all did?
What you're talking about in general?
You too. Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys. He went to Texas Tech. Marcus.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah, I went to college twice. There was a military tour between it, but I mean, it was, I mean, the craziness you expect. I kind of worked at a bar the second time. So I was more in charge of the chaos and trying to keep people safe than actually going full throttle like the first time.
Nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Listen.
I went to UTSA. It was pretty fun. I went like right after high school. What's really funny about that is me just being like a 17-year-old girl wanting to get the hell out of like Eagle Pass. I was like, oh, they for sure have journalism as a major, like whatever. And then I get there and I'm like, hey, so I want to major in journalism. And they're like, oh, we don't have that. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. Advertising and PR, I guess. And that's, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both from the a border town of Eagle. Both of you guys, right? Eagle Pass?
Yeah.
Both of them. So Eagle Pass is right on. David's from Pasadena, which is what, 4 hours north of Tijuana, which would be the closest border town or most popular.
Like 3.
3? Okay. And then I'm from Fresno, like good 6 hours if you're trying. But yeah, no, we have these.
Wait, is Eagle Pass by Brownsville or by where is it by?
It's about 6 hours away from Brownsville. We're like a little bit closer to Laredo or Del Rio. Yeah.
Fun fact, if you're just south San Antonio, you're just thrown in the valley. Like, it's just like, oh, there's nothing down there.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh, we go past the valley. And I'm like, no, not the valley. They're like, El Paso. And I'm like, no.
And it's a Californians, the Rio Grande Valley. Because we have our own valley, which should be the goddamn San Joaquin Valley where I'm from, but it's not. It's the other valley that I don't even want to bring up. But Marcos, you want to talk about just real quick, just kind of get us warmed up, get our chops going. New representation. We made it. We're Marvel. We're Marvel characters now.
Oh yeah, it is Marvel. I keep calling him Aquaman, but it's not Aquaman. It's Namor. Yeah, you are a big advocate for Mexicans don't have a lot of superheroes, like in general. I think it's just the Blue Beetle in comics, and then a Green Lantern here and there.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah.
Espirito.
Who?
Esperito.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
We make our own if you want to count like El Chapulín and stuff like that. But that's not like you can talk to the average person about it.
Right. And those movies of the luchadores are from like the 50s. We got to make some more of those.
But we got someone break the glass ceiling. We have Tinoch Huerta is going to get cast as Namor.
Which I'll take that. I mean, so Namor, if you don't listen to comics, you're not going to know who he is. But he's
Marvel's Aquaman.
Yeah, he's in charge of Atlantis. He's a king. And he's going to show up in the next Black Panther movie, which already upset me because why you going to pit the Mexican guy against the black people, huh? You want to talk about being woke in the mind. Okay. Well, my thing I'm hoping for, and my friends keep telling me that it's not going to happen, is that all the Atlanteans are going to be like Central American or Mexican or South American or heck, even Caribbean. I'd throw that in there. But yeah, this character, a lot of people don't know him, don't really care, but they're going to set him up as a real major player of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm excited about it. I'll take anybody at this point. Seriously, I mean, because like if you try to make one of the heavy hitters, like Thor's Mexican now, people are going to get mad and crazy. Nobody cares about Namor. You can make him a whole new thing, and making him a different ethnicity because Atlantean's not a real ethnicity. I think it benefits everybody, but. You saw the comments. You sent me some comments. Not everybody agrees.
I mean, people are going to get mad about everything. There's a funny argument to be made about colorism to preview the podcast. It's there's no sun in the ocean, so you can't get a tan.
So how do you
basically if mermaids exist, they have to be pale.
See, that's
the argument.
right.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's dumb.
It's people overthinking in a way to justify.
They also have to breathe underwater, and that doesn't happen or exist. So,
no, yeah, exactly.
So technically, it'd be purple because they'd be dead. But I'm excited for it, man. I mean, I hate that you take what you get, but I think this is a good win if they play it right.
Well, he's the villain for one.
That's cool too.
That's fine. Is he drug trafficking? No.
I just like that. I just like that it's not like Gael Garcia Bernal or like someone super common, like a big like we don't need a super huge star to fill that role. Like I think it's great, whoever's the best actor for it, and they're not like super light skin. I'm glad they gave it to homeboy who like looks like your everyday Mexican. I think it's good too to mix it up a bit.
Right.
So yeah, he's a younger actor, so
yeah,
can't really go wrong with that. So.
I mean,
never mind. He's 40. I mean, that's
hey, that's younger because
Hollywood.
Hey, just because I'm 10 years closer to that than to 20. I'll count that as young. Shut up, Dave.
The only thing he's been in is Narcos. I don't know if anyone saw that.
I didn't, but I know that was a pretty well-known movie, I guess.
It's kind of funny. Sam complains about this a lot, but I think he's dead on. I kind of got tired of Mexican drug movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
After what was
just like any tired narrative, just mix it up, y'all.
Right. Like, just, all right, he's Mexican and he runs underwater. Cool. I'm fine with that. So if it's underwater,
like something different,
right? And as we'll get into it, like once we get a preview, like you said, dark skinned guy. It's not Diego Luna, who's as white as as I am, just about. Which is, man, these lights and these cameras aren't doing me any justice. I look pale. I need to go talk about sun. I need to go get some sun because I feel racist being this light, to be honest. But
we got to move up the color wheel that we got to talk about later.
Oh, the color wheel. Yeah, man. Well, let's see here. What? Oh, I see. My key is in the chat. Sorry, the chat's far away. Your everyday Mexican, yeah, until Marvel makes him ripped as fuck. That is true. He's gonna have that Marvel money to get shredded as fuck, and so he's gonna look like our friend, and then he's just gonna have an 8-pack of abs, and it's not fair. Because then I'm gonna have to get an 8-pack of abs. I don't know why. He's in my hero, so I'm gonna have to aspire to him, even though I'm like a foot taller than him probably. But
no, yeah, he's a short guy.
Hey, that's fine. That's even better. That's even better. Not everybody needs to be a big, gigantic hero, okay? Not all of us can be The Rock. Sometimes you got to be, what's his name? No.
She's right.
No, that's one of them. That's the one thing I always bring this up because I'm so excited about it. I met The Rock one time, and by met The Rock, I mean I was in his presence. He's only an inch taller than me. And that's very upsetting because he is 1,000 times buffer than me. And I feel like I should be like him. And it's attainable, but also...
It's not attainable.
Jesus Christ, man. Like, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. But...
That dude's been an athlete since he was 14 and just never stopped working out. Like, it's not attainable at this point.
Just remind yourself, he's an outlier, Sam.
Yeah.
No,
but he's the most successful outlier, and I want to be at least a moderately successful outlier. So if I
you're running your own podcast, you're a wonderful outlier.
That's true. I'll take it. I could use a little more outlier, but you know what? Enough of my selfishness. It's too much for this podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start the show already. Let's just get into it. It's going to be a nice topic to talk about. We're going to maybe have some solutions, probably cause more issues than we started. We'll figure it out as we go along. So we'll go ahead and just run the pre-roll, give you some commercials. We're going to get ourselves set up, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome everybody to Más O Menos Mexicanos. Wow, I messed it up. It's been so long since we've done this show. Welcome everybody. It's Spanish. I also don't know it. I'm Sammy Gonzalez. Welcome to Más O Menos Mexicanos. Once again, Sammy Gonzalez, joined by everybody. We got a full house again. We're back, baby, and we're back all digital, all remote, all the time. It's a little bit easier to do this podcast this way, so we're gonna do it this way. So welcome to the show. First off, I want to introduce my number two. Is it my Kirk? No, my Spock. You're my Spock.
Whatever, your henchman. Your
henchman,
the dude that helps you out.
Right hand man. Wrong direction.
Yeah. My name is Marco. I hope everyone's having a good night or buenos noches.
Stop it. Don't hurt my feelings.
I usually would go left to right, but I mean, not yet. Let's go left to right. To diagonal, it's the person that helped make this show. Is you, Alyssa?
It's you, Alyssa.
Oh, it's me? Sorry. You were pointing at David. And
no, it was, yeah.
This is not good.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, this is not good. But that's my fault, Alyssa. I haven't been on air in, over a month now?
You have been fighting the man, and winning. So,
no, not winning.
You didn't win? What? Marcos told me you guys won.
We won one and lost one.
So, if you guys, to catch y'all up, Alyssa is a activist in the San Antonio area altogether, and she was like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna be out for a while because I gotta go do the footwork. You're not just like tweeting, not just like, putting out press releases or whatever, like actually going out and yelling at people and being like, what is wrong? What is wrong with you? Get it right. Vote correctly."
So much cooler than it actually is.
It is cool.
Job, and yeah, door knocking was fun. I got to meet a lot of really cool people, but also got chased by a couple of chickens, some small dogs. Good times.
Well, I'll take that over any big dogs because we all know I'm afraid of dogs. So small dogs, chickens. Chickens are scary. They'll pick your eyes out. But
yeah, they're horrifying.
But definitely, welcome back, Alyssa. It's good to have you back. Show wasn't the same without you. It was a little too brotastic for our tastes. And of course, rounding us out, our special guest today, a longtime friend of mine, over 10 years, I realize, this year. I want to introduce you all to a great friend of mine. Let's see if I get the diagonal right. Yeah, that's right. David Flores. Oh, let me take his name away. So now it's just David. But I'm using his government name, but David, I want to give you a little bit of preface and let you take it from here. David's an educator of the youths. He's a teacher in various parts of California. He, I feel, is very, very qualified to talk about our conversation today, which is going to be about colorism in particularly the Mexican community, but overall in the whole spectrum of things. So, David, and this is also a little icebreaker as well to bring it up. Obviously, introduce yourself, but how do you identify? Are you Chicano, Latino, Latinx, if you will? Because you deal with young kids and probably kids that are more likely to use it, even though they're middle schoolish kind of time, maybe right before that.
I'm teaching high school.
High school. Oh, so right in the prime of the people who would use it. So, David, I'll let you introduce yourself without further ado.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what's up, y'all? My name's David Flores. I'm out here in Pasadena, California, and teaching ethnic studies at the moment. Just wrapping up the year, so I'll be starting our ethnic studies department here, both at my high school and in the district. So it's pretty exciting times for me. I've been wrapped up my 7th year of teaching, and besides that, just happy to be here, folks, and share some insight, I guess, or just my opinion. I don't know how much insight it'll be, but it'll be my opinion.
Opinion's good, man. Opinion's good. And I do want to know this because I do respect your opinion on a lot of things. You have your ear to these topics a little bit more. How do you identify? Are you a Chicano?
Sorry. I miss parts of questions sometimes. No bad.
No, you're good.
I would say it depends on the day of the week, dog. I don't know. Sometimes I say I'm Chicano, and then sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I really want to identify as that. So I'll describe myself as Latinx. I think it depends on the context. Like sometimes when I'm speaking from if I'm trying to discuss my experience as like a brown person in my body, like growing up, I'll probably say Latinx just because I want to kind of reflect. Although I can only speak from my personal experience, I have also seen from experience and from literature that similar folks in my body go through similar things, right? So I think in that context, I use Latinx more. I'm not opposed to the term Chicano.
I just don't know if I use it as much anymore.
Yeah, because that was our bread and butter in college. So we were part of an organization called Hermanos Unidos, and we were the way we did it was Chicano, Latino, but with the at symbol. So it was both, Chicana and Chicano.
Before
So
the X, yeah.
that was before
It
the
was
X.
Like the precursor to the X, the arroba sign.
Yeah. And so that was our bread and butter. We said, you know what, that works for everybody. And then they were like, no, it's not including of transgender and all that stuff, which I thought it would because it's both, but what do I know? And so they made it an X, and now people are fighting back against it. People have opinions on it, but I just like asking our guests who identify as such, just to see what's being used.
You know what? I'm Mexican, dog, because I think that's what most naturally comes like to mind. If you ask me like off the bat, like if somebody asked me like, "Wait, what are you?" I'd say I'm Mexican.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'll leave it at that.
And are you? And then that goes into one more step. We'll go back to the topic. Are you born and from Mexico? I never asked this question. Born in Mexico or just born in California?
I'm a Mexican born in Pasadena, California.
There it is. There it is. See, folks, you just gotta ask and you just gotta know. But Marcos, I'm gonna go ahead and let you take the lead while he's hydrating up. He's getting he's getting the vocalizer ready. About to start some shit.
He definitely came to the right place to discuss the right topics, especially with that intro. Just to explain a little bit about it, David, is that this is a Mexican culture podcast. I pitched this idea to Alyssa. It's like there's a lot of podcasts or movies or TV shows about the African American experience, or a couple about the Asian American experience, but there's really not a lot about the Mexican American experience. Like you can watch Selena, maybe that might be it.
Stand
like,
to stand,
really,
deliver.
Yeah, like there's just not a lot, and then all that stuff is about overcoming something, and it's not the day-to-day life. So when we came up with this podcast, it's a warts and all podcast, or we wouldn't be talking about colorism. And the other thing is sometimes we do episodes that are serious like this. Sometimes we do fun episodes where we just talk about Mexican candy or Mexican snacks that we had. Like somebody that's Mexican listens to it and it's like, I remember that and I feel at home here. That's the overall thing. Oh. From that, I pitched the ball to Alyssa to say that, hey, this was when I first said, hey, let's have a podcast about the Mexican American experience. You were like, this is the topic I want to do. Like, give me this. I want to do this more than any of the other topics.
Right. So,
well, it's exciting, man. It's good vibes, and I feel like there's so much to talk about. So it's looking forward to delving in.
Well, listen, why did you? I mean, I have ideas. I mean, I know you, but to the people outside, I mean, why did you want to talk about the colorism in Mexican American culture so much?
Yeah. Honestly, because it's the culture that we grew up in, Marcos. I mean, growing up in Eagle Pass, Texas, where it's 99.9%, Latinos, Mexicans. Looking back on it, I felt like we grew up in like this really interesting little bubble of like, I was telling you over text the other day, like judging Mexicans from Mexico while, we're, Mexican Americans, but we still have, relatives and stuff in Mexico. Like, for example, like at the mall, we would see all the Coahuila license plates and it's like, everyone from Mexico is here. And like looking back on it, before and like hearing my grandparents say it, hearing it my grandparents say it is wild because they're both from Mexico. Yeah. So, it was just embedded into our culture. And looking back on it now and like living in San Antonio and like, being around other ethnicities and like realizing that we grew up in a bubble, like looking back at all of these little things, it's like, oh, that's colorism. Oh, that's, not normal,
right.
So this is why that topic was just, very important to me. And like another reason is I'm in a biracial relationship. My boyfriend is Black, but he's also a little bit of Mexican, a little bit of Cuban, things like that. And kind of like the reaction around it, like, my grandparents are all dead. And, my parents are very cool, but like my friends' parents, being like, oh, this is what the Black guy, and it's just kind of like, we're really like still doing this in this day and age.
Let me take a look. Yep, we are. Yeah.
I mean, it's very unique that it's. I was listening to some stand up as I was trying to find like information and stats for this podcast, and then one of by Felipe came up where he's like, "So Mexicans, like, if you close the door off, just start hating on other Mexicans. Like, it's just like that dude becomes negro, and you start talking shit about that guy. That dude becomes chino. Like, it's just like,
right.
It's not good."
It really isn't.
Not. And the thing is we'll get into our own personal experiences, kind of our basis with it. I come out relatively unscathed, but there's still some bad things in there where it's like, oh my God, that's only one generation away from me. That's just a step away. And so luckily there's been some cleaning, but how do you want to introduce this topic, Marcos? Like, what's the first, I guess, attack point you want to get into before we can open up the coconut, if you will.
Well, all right. I'm going to say these in English. They are phrases said in Spanish, but let's just dissect these 5 common things that are said in in Spanish households and see how you feel about them.
Can I request that you do it in Spanish first, then in English for our audience and me?
Okay. He was born black, #dark. But we still love him the same.
What's that in Spanish? I would say, like I said, say in Spanish first, and then translate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nació negrito, pero sí lo queremos.
Ugh. I don't know if we use that ever.
You never heard that one at all?
Never heard that one. He's heard
for sure. Maybe not the like todavía lo queremos part. Definitely the está negrito, pero todavía está bonito.
Yeah,
like he's still kind of cute, or está curiosito. Like he's, I don't know, which is like a kind of messed up way to say he looks curious. Like he looks interesting. But yeah, also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go first, man.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say it reminded me of also like staying out of the sun.
Mm.
Oh yeah, no, that's the other one. Go to the shade. You're gonna get darker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vete por la sombrita.
These are real things, folks. These are real things. Like I said, lucky enough to dodge a lot of these bullets, but
I mean, the thing is, California is a different place. Like, it literally, racism is different there in Remember the Titans, and that was 40 years, almost 50 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But this one I remember hearing this one a lot. Eres tan indio. You're so Indian.
That I've heard a lot of. That I've heard a lot more of, yeah.
I didn't hear so much in my family, but I heard it from other people, or especially like when they're darker skinned, they would call them indios.
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah.
And then on the other side of the wheel, boss, it'd be great if you would marry a white guy. Casaste con un blanco.
Okay.
We had never gotten any requests for that.
Oh man, my aunts and uncles all the time.
Oh, well, they must be happy for you. You're married. You're dating / been with.
It's definitely a running joke. Like when you're single, like, oh, like cásate con una güerita. It's like you're set. You know, like life's made. It's this assumption that you'll have it good from then on.
That's always like a funny thing that it's equated with wealth. Like, it's like, oh, all right, he's moving up a social class now. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, there was specifically a guy I follow real into indigenous culture, and apparently knew a girl that was down with all that. She married started dating / married a British dude, and then turned heel and was like, you know what? You know, the Mexicans need to work harder and do all this and do all that, and then started saying things about the culture itself and all that stuff. Things can switch really quickly, and
that's so disappointing.
It is. No, I read that too. And he was disappointed. I was disappointed, and that's part of it. And that's, I guess, a good launching off point, because is there any more of those terrible awful ones?
That was just 5. There's more in my memory banks, but there's only 5 in this essay. Like, it's just so commonplace. And like Alyssa was saying, our hometown, like, I think by the numbers is 96% Hispanic, and then the only Asian people that I know was the dude that taught Taekwondo and the people that owned the restaurant, the Chinese restaurant in town.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, when it came to black people, if they weren't in the Border Patrol or Customs, I don't know how they were in there until Katrina happened.
Right.
And I mean, there's a couple of white people, but it was like 96% Hispanic.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely a bubble.
Yeah.
What's Pasadena look like? I don't know. You know the demo there?
Looking like, or America's rainbow of diversity. um, it's like pretty balanced. Like, I mean, you can't really like, yeah, there's a little bit of everything. There's
Yeah.
like, it's probably like 30 or 40% brown and 25% white and like 10% black,
Right.
and the rest is like Asian from different regions.
Right.
Pretty diverse, but they got all the working class folks like up in the corner of Northwest Pasadena, like above the freeway, and then the rest of the city is pretty well off. So when folks talk about Pasadena, they talk about like the wealth, whether it's the Rose Bowl or the Rose Parade, or like I don't know what else. That's about it.
The Rose Bowl, the Rose Parade. That's about it. Yeah, and Fresno, I think is under. I think it's 8% black. I want to say out 40% Hispanic or Latino, and then the other split between white and various Asian folks. So a lot of migrant workers in Fresno County, in Fresno, the city of Fresno. So huge influx of the population there, but a lot of other people as well. So.
Well, I mean, does anyone have a personal story? Something that like really discuss? I mean, just to expose a wart and all.
Yeah.
Like about something that happened in their household that it was like it was one thing one way, and then later, like you look back on it after you've grown and left your hometown. In my case, and it's like that's really wasn't cool.
I have one with like my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather would always like tell, me and like his other grandchildren, like, don't be a Mexican your entire life. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you are a Mexican man from Mexico. And like looking back at it, it's like, oh, ha ha ha, like, Weddle's just like making a joke, I guess, about his own people being lazy, but it's like it's so weird. Like it's like such like an internalized hatred that made me like very sad. Like when I look back and like reflected on it, it's like, don't be a Mexican your entire life, but you are. And it's like, just because you work a certain amount doesn't make you any less Mexican.
Right. That's so strange. Because did he think he wasn't? At a certain point, like, did he hit a level of success where he thought that,
That's exactly what it is.
That's the thing. Like my grandfather was, he dropped out of school, by 6th grade so that he can get a job. He worked out in the field. He was a truck driver for a little while. And then he was an auto mechanic for like the rest of his life until he retired, and like lived like a very like humble life. And I don't know if it was like instilled in him in the army or something, but
yeah, that's crazy.
Internalized depression is real.
Yeah.
This one was even more wild. I found this out maybe 4 months ago. 4 months ago, and mind you, like I'm starting to learn I'm over 30 now, so I'm starting to learn all the family secrets. My great grandmother, she passed away when I was 16, 102 years old, almost 103. We love Ma Maria, that's what we called her. She was a staple in the household forever. And then she had my grandma, and then my grandma had her kids, my dad, and his sisters. Apparently, she adored my oldest aunt, my Tia Mary, because she was ghost white, pale skin, and would reflect that in the gifts that she gave them during Christmas. Because my dad's not terribly dark, but he's darker. His brothers are darker, and then the girls are more fair skinned. But the girls, especially his oldest sister, got so much more from their grandmother than the boys got, than any of the girls that were darker skinned got. Apparently, she was excruciatingly colorist. Like violently, to the point where my dad had to tell me, he goes, with my grandkids, everyone gets the same. Everyone gets the same amount, because it bothered him that much. Now, my grandmother, there's probably little bits of it with my half white, half Mexican nieces and nephew. My sister married a white guy, and they were very light skinned, and they got to meet my grandma before she passed. I bet I know for a fact that she adored them maybe just a little bit more than my cousin's kids, who they stay in the sun. They get really, really dark and things like that. They're full Mexican kids, and they're beautiful kids. And my grandma loved them just the same. But her mom reflected kind of, I believe, those kind of things, because my grandma was dark skinned, which that's kind of fucked up. That her own daughter was dark skinned, but because she had lighter skinned grandbabies, the grandbabies were treated better because they were lighter. And then her great grandkids were treated even better because my sisters were fair skinned too. So it's just like, I didn't notice it, and I didn't notice that my family got special treatment, my kind of deviation from the bloodline of the rest of my family, because we're a little bit more light skinned. My mom's lighter skin, my dad's medium. The fact that we have these kind of tiers, what indicates light and dark, we know what will get you treated right and what will get you treated wrong in our culture. And that's, for someone who doesn't really experience it too much, it's fucked up that I know so much about it.
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring up the word tiers, because I think David might want to take the ball at this point, but this is literally where colonialization comes into play, because it did start as those tiers being related to color. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like the history of like after the Aztecs lost, like from once the encomienda started, what was life like socially for like probably the next 300 years.
Okay, cool. So and it's crazy because like and don't think I'm never like nitpicking. It's just like to point shit out.
Yeah.
Because I want to point out how rooted it is. Like, yeah, so they were known as, their name were the Mexica, and that's where the name Mexico comes from, from the Aztecs' real name. And then the Aztecs was the name that the Spanish gave them. Yeah, anyway, so after the Mexica were colonized by the Spanish, they set up encomiendas. Like, they got this caste system going, and I don't know if you all have seen these charts before. If you ever took like a history class in college, well, they're pretty widespread, like on Google. But there's this caste system that broke down like superiority, I guess, based on skin tone within like the Spanish colonial system.
Yeah, if you can see
it's a picture. It's a bunch of pictures actually.
Oh, okay. That's the one I was using, but I'll
okay, got it. Yeah. Oh, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, exactly. But you'll see like there's this old like paintings of them. It's just a trip to kind of see, and then it shows like the two adults and then like the baby that they have. Like,
oh yeah, I have seen that one.
They mix. Yeah. Yeah. It's a trip, but it's like, so when the argument is made nowadays that like race is something that folks now are bringing up and making an issue, or like they constructed it. We were like, no, actually, like colonizers constructed the concept of race, and now folks are continuing to try to fight back against it and eliminate it. And now it's like a lack of recognition. But anyway, right. So caste systems in place, essentially they try to see if Native folks can be slaves. That doesn't work out too well because the Spanish keep getting them sick with their fucking diseases. So right. Like Native folks don't make good slaves, aside from the fact that, a lot of them resist. There's always resistance. Wherever there's oppression, there's resistance. That's what I tell my students. But there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of death. And then there is a lot of conformity and conversion of Catholicism. And that's where you kind of see this intermingling of religions with like indigenous culture and Catholicism, for example, like with Dia de los Muertos, the most popular example, right? Mm-hmm. Like calaveras and death and stuff isn't typically recognized within Catholicism, but the Spanish bent a little bit in that sense and allowed the indigenous folks to incorporate a little bit of their beliefs, as long as they kind of follow the letter of the law with the other Christian beliefs. Yeah. It was a system of oppression. They extracted resources, and that's a huge thing. Considering like the issue, like everything that went down with Kamala Harris speaking in Guatemala and Mexico. Was it yesterday or day
before? I think, yeah.
Yeah, day before. So it's folks are, the far left or the communists or the socialists or whatever you want to call Twitter, like, but the conscious Twitter, the woke Twitter, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Right.
Like folks are bringing it to the public's attention that a lot of this stuff is rooted in historical examples of America going into other countries, not minding their own fucking business and like trying to fuck shit up for economic benefit. Now, it's not unique to shit that Europeans didn't do, right? With starting with colonization.
Right.
So they're just repeating the model of patriarchal colonialism and capitalism now. But yeah, lots of oppression, fights for revolution in 1810 and 1910. And those were somewhat successful and later repressed. And they were able to gain support from the U.S. during the revolution because it was convenient at the time to get at Spain out of there. We were Mexicans were definitely a lot easier to like manipulate and coerce or work with in terms of economic agreements than it was with the Spanish. So they were out of the way. And then the fucking French came back like, hey, y'all still owe us money. Like, what the fuck? And the Austrians too. And then the Mexicans were like, bro, like we told y'all, we're barely holding ourselves together. We can't pay y'all. So what's up? I guess y'all gonna come and catch the fade. So they sailed their little boats over. And, Cinco de Mayo happened. We fucking Sparta that shit and fucking flipped the script and beat those motherfuckers at Puebla. They dipped out. And after that, it's been a run of, I don't know, dictatorship, like 30 years of Porfirio Diaz. And, he brought some modernization mostly to Mexico City and he extended the railroads, but he sold off a lot of land and resources to the U.S. And that's the big story in Mexico, Latin America. If it wasn't stolen during colonization, that shit was extracted in the process through capitalism. So a lot of land and petroleum, electricity, whatever natural resources, oil especially, you name it, Europeans have hands on it to this day. Americans have hands on it to this day. And you'd wonder, like, would that ever happen in America? And why are they doing that to other countries? Like, America would never allow, like, fucking Mexicans or Chinese to own oil in their lands. So,
right.
But yeah, imperialism, all that, all the special words, but they did it all. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff to talk about, and that's cool. And I think the problem with Americans, they put us not only to being in the box, but thinking in the box. And we got to stop thinking it doesn't have to be this or that. The reality is that it's both. There's some great stuff in this country, and that's why I still live here. And that's why I'm trying to make it better. And at the same time, we're problematic as fuck. And the only way to improve is to recognize, reflect, and take steps to be better, right? Whether we're people, country, whatever, you name it, right?
Right. And what's most messed up about that is all of that started with colorism. Like that was the platform of it. That was the basis of it. And by the way, I have KJ317 in the chat right now. He goes, man, I wish I had this history lesson in high school.
For real.
When you say French, the French can catch this fade, I think the youth can identify with that.
You gotta find a way to deliver the message for the people,
right?
And like it's not about and there's times to be strategic and introduce these academic terms, but at the end of the day, it's like, what's your goal? And my goal is to spread awareness and knowledge and help uplift folks in the community.
Right.
That's it.
Right. And you bring up a lot of good points about just the fact that by creating that tier system based off of colorism, that it then informs you of your own value in this system that they made up afterwards. I always make this very basic joke that before the Aztecs, they were just fighting other people in the wrong part of the jungle. They all looked alike. They all about the same height. They're all probably related in the genealogy of things. It's just like, I don't like that guy. I'm going to sacrifice it to my sun god because fuck that guy. He's in a part of the jungle I want. They were all the same.
Partly, and no, because we're way more complex than that. And that's really colonialism too. Because when we talk about fucking the English, we get all intricate about.
Well, fuck them. We know that.
Ways they navigated the land and all that shit and all the wagons they use and whatnot. Like, nah, we're complex as beings. And the Mexica were actually fucking colonized. Nah, they weren't colonizers, but they were definitely fucking
strategic in their
capitalists. They were conquerors. There you go. That's a good word. They were conquerors.
Yeah.
And they like took over indigenous folks around them.
That's what I'm saying.
And they built. Yeah, that's how they built their empire. Like,
but it wasn't based because they were brown or dark. It was
Right.
because I want their land. I want their land, and I want them out.
They never really conquered for land. They conquered for
And
tribute. They
And then
conquered.
tribute,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had. I don't think the empire ever expanded out of the bowl. Is what it was. Like I may be
the
wrong.
purépechas in Michoacán stata.
But so everything that he said was correct. I just wanted to add the idea of mestizaje or how can I say the word in English but not in Spanish? But I mean, say the word in Spanish but not in English.
Mestization.
Mesticization.
But it wasn't just so that was the caste system, but the Spanish idea was it was literally their policy to outbreed the anybody that was dark of colored. So, like he said, indigenous people didn't work too well because they got sick. So they brought in a lot of Afro people, and so after a while, when they looked at their population, they were worried about revolt, the same way in the United States became a thing that in the Civil War. But in Spain, I mean, in Mexico or Latin America, really, the policy was send white prostitutes to those areas. And also when Europeans come from across the sea, specifically put them in there so that the indigenous people or the Afro people will marry white people. And then eventually all that bad color will go away, like after enough breeding cycles.
Jesus
See,
Christ.
I'll teach about just about anything, but I might still gloss over that detail. But that's super interesting. I didn't know that, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, eugenics was very much alive in that sense, whether it had the label or not.
Right.
And that shit, it continued on today, and it was instilled in folks that white or Spanish blood was desirable, speaking Spanish was desirable. And then you kind of see, I don't know, I guess it's human nature, this idea of wanting to fit in and assimilate, and this constant, and then so it's this battle, right? It's like who you are and who you think you're supposed to be and who you want to be, and that's where we're at.
Right.
Well, I
My
mean,
bad. I
wanted to get. I didn't want to talk too much. That's what I do when I leave a pause like that.
Yeah.
That'll just get edited out. That being said,
It won't. It won't get edited out. You gotta absorb the feel of what has been said. We
I was gonna say I'm marinating it.
yeah. That's one of those things where you're just like, yeah, think on that. Pause. And there you go.
That being said, so we've laid the groundwork to a lot of like it's the frame that you don't see in a house. It's what's behind the drywall to how we get to the world today. But we have all these ideas that it's just like, all right, the paler you are, that is going to be the more European you are. That's still the what the standard is for beauty and so on. But it's still literally part of all of Latin culture, like not just Mexican culture, because I mean, this is where Sam wanted to talk about the president of Argentina.
Yeah.
Saying what he said. Yes.
Yeah. So David actually shared it. I saw it as well on Twitter. Let's see here if I can find the image. I'll just read out the headline, what it said. So this is from the New York Times. The president of Argentina is facing criticism for a statement widely seen as xenophobic and offensive. Mexicans emerged from indigenous people. Brazilians emerged from the jungle, but we Argentines arrived on boats from Europe, he said. And that's the thing I've heard about and I thought was insane. And then the president said it and I still thought it was even more insane. Because I don't know if that's how it works. Because if they came off the boats from Europe, they'd still be whatever they came off the boat was. If they were Spanish, they'd still be Spanish. They wouldn't be Argentinian.
Yeah, I think he missed the boat, and reading over the article, I guess his intent, was to show his connection to the Spanish,
right?
But it's super interesting because actually the European boats that he was referring to were actually German and Italian immigrants.
Right.
There weren't really that many Spanish.
Right.
It was just a bunch of ex-Nazis and ex-fascists who came to Argentina, and that's why half the Argentinian soccer national team's got Italian last names
and blue eyes and shit. What's that?
Right.
What's that dude with the blue eye? Oh. Oh, he's an
Yeah, but
Argentine.
there's some shady history in Argentina, especially with like ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
It is one of the quote unquote like most light skinned or whitest countries in South America,
Mhm.
and in large part it's due to the ethnic cleansing that took part in like the middle centuries, like after colonization, and pushing a lot of indigenous and darker skinned folks to Uruguay and Paraguay.
Right. And like, what do you do with that idea, right? Like, so all of us have been lucky enough to attend college and get a. We had Chicano studies, ethnic studies was part of our requirement to graduate at UCSB, and I assume where you guys went as well.
Yeah, I had to take a multicultural class in America.
Right. So we have the luxury, I guess, to be exposed to that type of education. And so we're able to see the game for what it is. I mean, by the way, I didn't tell David exactly what the podcast was. I said colorism. He knew that shit off top. So not only being an educator, but also paying attention to the damn classes. He's figured it out, and he has an understanding that not everybody has. I have an understanding a little bit above maybe the average, and so do you guys as well. But then there's people that discount it and say that it's not a real thing, or lean into it and they say, oh, that's just part of who we are. You know, that we do like light skin. Light skin is better. It helps you get jobs. It helps you. And Alyssa, hopefully don't take this the wrong way, but I'm sure you've heard this. The lighter skin you are as a woman, the better, more appealing you are, and this is that. Obviously, the European beauty standards, especially with the ladies in my family, that's something that they've had to deal with. And God damn it, I'm so mad that. And she's never gonna see this, but my youngest niece, is darker skinned, and I know she sees it. And she was adopted, and from my sister who married a white guy with the two pale siblings. And I know that she notices that she is darker skinned. I know that she notices it, and I know that she notices her eyebrows are a little thicker. She looks a little bit more like me than her siblings, and I could see that little bit of doubt grow in her, and it breaks my fucking heart. Because we didn't really have to deal with it. My sisters didn't have to deal with it because they're pale as shit. So what do you do with that experience, knowing that was something that you had to deal with? I'm going to pass it to you, Alyssa, because that's very specific to what I kind of want to know about this element. Because I don't know, for men, do we get it as much? Do they?
Yeah, you still get it. It'll come out in really terrible things like jobs and going into a room and things like that. Right. I do want to just go back to Argentina just for 1 second.
Absolutely.
I have a friend that lived in Argentina for 5 years. Alyssa actually knows him too, Luis. He got shit every night he went out. Like, he says the stories in jest, but I'm like, that wasn't cool that they were like, he would go out and he'd be feeling great, and he's like, "Oh, you really," like the other guys would say in Spanish, like, "Oh, you really think you're gonna get lucky tonight?" Like, "Mira el negro cree que va a tener buena suerte." Like, they would just tell him to his face, like they would call him negro and be like, "Hey," because he's probably as dark as David, but he definitely stood out in Argentina.
Right, and
that's crazy.
Right.
But yeah, great example there.
Yeah, no, it's this thing. The beauty. That was a big one I wanted to do, because like it is there, man. It's there and everything, and like you said, jobs too. The hard part for me, and it really is bullshit. And this is one of those things where you realize, like, oh crap, I'm privileged as fuck. Even in my, I'm Mexican. The last name's still the same, but all things considered, I'm tall, I'm light skinned, and straight. So no one's really gonna fuck with me just based off of those things for the most part. If they find, they'd have to ask me if my last name was Gonzalez. I mean, because I look kind of like Muslim-y, Filipinas. I'm ethnic something.
Racially ambiguous.
But they don't know. They don't know unless I speak or wear these shirts and hat. Nextmerch.com. So it wasn't until much later that I realized, like, oh shit, I've never had to deal with this. And like, Alyssa, the story just based off your grandfather, I'm sure you've dealt with it, and I just kind of want to hear a little bit about that and just like how real it is to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely can't speak on the experience of, a darker skinned Mexican. I'm definitely, this is as tan as I get.
Right.
And I got sun poisoning, so this is the result of sun poisoning.
That's a thing?
Yeah. It's awful.
Clearly, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, no, I was a lot redder and I peeled like a snake, but this was the ending result of it. So this is, as dark as I'll ever be. I'm definitely a lot lighter. And I can't speak to experience, but you mentioned a lot of things about privilege, and I definitely recognize that I have name privilege. Like my last name is Bunting and my first name is Alyssa, so you automatically think I'm white.
Right.
So I will say one time, and I will remember this, it was in college. I applied at Macy's in the shoe department, and I walked in for my interview, and they're like, Alyssa? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, Bunting? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And the girl like straight up said like, oh, I was expecting someone white. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a quarter white, and, we laughed about it and then like went about my interview. But like on the drive home, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't believe she actually said that. Like, that's ridiculous.
I can't believe that she actually said that now that you're recounting the story.
Yeah. A lady named Bernadette. So that's all.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I definitely understand that. I didn't understand that until I moved away from Eagle Pass, just because I grew up in an environment where everyone, kind of looked like me. But I will say, just from personal experience, like the first guy I ever had a crush on in college, he didn't like. I realized, like with girls that he dated after, that he only liked white girls. And this was like a Latino man himself too, which was like really interesting. Yeah, not from Eagle Pass, from San Antonio. Or no, I'm not sure where he was from actually, but he was from UTSA.
Oh, fetishizing? No, that's another episode.
Right. Well, we dip our toes into other episodes on this show where it's like, we gotta. That's next time.
A little teaser.
That's next time. That's next time.
Yeah. But that was definitely, the one time that I felt like, oh, okay, like I'm, a brown girl. But that's, after that, like I, was very lucky to be surrounded by a lot of, Latinas who were very empowered within themselves. And it took me a really long time to like become empowered by my hairy arms. I would shave my arms, pretty often. And, for the longest time, I just stopped and like let it grow. Like I am a hairy Latina woman. That's what it is.
Right.
And yeah, like you I think at some point every, Latina or like not light skinned white Latina would experience that. And it definitely sucks. And, I hope your niece grows up in an environment where she knows that, Eurocentric beauty standards don't mean anything. And, her skin color is just as beautiful. Her thick eyebrows are just as beautiful. And I kind of see hope with this new generation.
Right. And it's getting there. She's 9. She's 9 years old. And so she knows enough about the world to be like, okay, I'm picking up externally. Because once again, my dad and my parents made it a point to never treat them any differently. That's on point. We got that. Her mom and her dad, they're both pale as shit, but her uncles, me and my brother, are dark, just like her. We look exactly like her. And yeah, it's just like, I wish I could take this away. And I wish that you weren't aware of it so early. Because, when I was 10 years old, I didn't see it that way. I didn't know about that way. It wasn't until I started going to a middle school that was predominantly white. And this is a callback to another episode, Comedy Central, being very ethno-focused in terms of the comedy, roughly around 98 to 2005. Where you had the black shows with Chappelle, and then you had the Mexican shows with Latin Kings of Comedy, and everything was very race-centric, where then people started kind of dividing their lines, and I started seeing it around that time where it's like, oh, you got to go hang with the Mexicans. I was like, I thought I was going to go hang with my friends. Not just, and then once you start divvying up by race, then you start getting into the tiers, and then it's just like, oh, okay. Now, luckily, what I grew up in didn't really matter too much, whether it be family or whether it be friends, but yeah, it's still there. And then you get to college and it's definitely there, especially when you are 20% of the college population and 50% of it is white when you're attending. You get real, yeah, if not more. Our time, that was when my freshman year, it was 50-20, 5% black, 20% Asian, and then like the rest other. And other is like everybody else. So, Yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Hey man, if it makes you feel any better, I don't know. I'd argue that like having kids be aware the sooner the better is a good thing because I think it's important for kids to understand how things work and why things happen, whether it's science or life or anything. And I think too often, like we shelter kids and we act like, oh no, they're babies. They're not going to understand. Kids are super smart. And like when you actually teach them things and treat them like people, it'll be easier for them to understand why things happen. And I mean, we also got to do a part in not letting like all this shit jade them. But
Yeah.
shit, that's a constant struggle for us, right? And that's the reality. That's the reality of the world too. Like a lot of this shit can make you jaded, or you can, try to look on the flip side, be hopeful, and try to make some change. But if she's aware of why it happens, she could be like, you know what, this is bullshit, and I'm not gonna let it phase me
Right.
because I understand now that people are just hating because they've been taught to hate, or people are hating because we've been taught to value one skin tone or another. But if I'm understanding that this is rooted in all these history of oppression and all these social norms that have been imposed on us, then okay, cool. I'm not gonna let it phase me as much.
So you're saying that footwork, because that's going to go into kind of our last topic, but I don't want to get there quite yet in case, Marcus, you have anything else going in this middle section here. But the work starts early, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marcos.
No. I mean, you're completely right about the section that we're at, but it's just to piggyback off what David just said. It's like, so we're in the top part of we're dealing with the modern effects of what colorism has painted Mexican culture, and one of the things that I learned while doing a little bit of research is like when it comes to racial self-identification, 36 identifies white, 3% identifies black, 51% as some other race. But for the most part, what that overall means is that there's not an overall connection to Latin culture, in the sense that it's like there's a lot of color blindness, and it's showing itself in a lot of really negative ways in the world, in politics, that it's just like, I don't identify as Mexican. I got here. I'm just a person. That's nothing to me. And so with no connection to culture, then it's like, yeah, I can vote for Trump. I can do this. Like there's a lot of things of Latin culture that bother me. And I think colorism does play into that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd go further, and like it breaks my heart to say it, but I think, oppression, I think imposes like certain forms of being on folks. And I think we've been in certain situations, like we've taken on certain labor positions, and we come as immigrants super vulnerable, undocumented, lacking rights, not knowing English, like we're we're vulnerable to any kind of failure here or folks taking advantage of us. So I think that's a constant. I think that's a constant struggle, and I think recognizing how it impacts you on a daily basis, I think is the hardest part. And recognizing that it's rooted in hate and this like drive to be competitive and to like put yourself above someone, whether it's because you make enough money, like more money than them, or because you're more beautiful than them. And I think that's rooted in colonization, colonialism too, right? Like this desire to be better. Like, why do you have to compete? Like, why do you have to have this amount of money? Why do you have to look better than somebody else? Like,
You know what? That brings up a really weird point. Sidebar. I was competitive with my own siblings in a really hyper aggressive way for a long time, probably up until about maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where it was just in me to compete against everybody and everything. I mean, I'm still working on it. Marcos has seen me play video games. But yeah, even against your own people, you're like, I want to be better than them. Better in what way? They're the exact same as you. They're from the exact same house, the exact same blood, the exact same people. Why do you need to be better?
yeah, they got us fighting for scraps. And okay, so here's where I was alluding to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like it's made a lot of us take on like this almost like subservient mentality. Like we desire to be white, we negotiate our real desires with whiteness all the time. And it's really interesting because For example, machismo is an integral part of Mexican culture, right?
That's where I was
But it's
thinking.
real
Yeah.
funny. But put a machista man in front of a white man in, like, for example, a position of work, and you'll see the Mexican man often take on this subservient, submissive role and throw away that machismo. But when they come home, boom, there's that anger, there's that suppressed masculinity, and I got fucked over by the white man all day, so I'm gonna take it out on my kids and on my wife. So that's just one example of the toxicity and how it impacts us and how we don't even recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a perfect example of the toxicity, and it actually came in a Twitter conversation between me and Alyssa, where there was a lot of people that we grew up with being rebellious and stuff. They just were of this kind of mindset, and then they got enough scraps where they were like, "No, I don't need to like rebel that much. I'm happy with where I am." And they came up with the phrase where it's like, "Fuck the police until I reach middle management."
It's true though, and it's it all alludes back to like coping mechanisms that come from like colonization, and it's crazy. I don't know,
Like
how do we deal with this?
Well,
I mean, invest in people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of money there, and it's like we got to wean America off its like imperialist, capitalist, militaristic tit. Like little by little, you can't just take away the police in a heartbeat and boom. I think it's important that we use intentional language, and we need to allocate more resources into supporting people, whether it's in education, finding a trade, finding their passion, bouncing back from any kind of struggle, you know. And I think if we do that, if we invest in people, history shows shit goes well. After World War II, fucking America invested in all their GIs,
yeah.
and they invested into the economy, into the infrastructure. They created a bunch of jobs in the process, and look what happened. A bunch of people became wealthy, created generational wealth for generations to come, you know?
Mm-hmm. And we'll go ahead and take now our first and only break. We'll be back after this brief hiatus. This is a perfect place to wrap up this little segment here, and then we'll get to the end after our commercial break just to see how we can figure this out, what we can do and what you can do out there to figure out this whole colorism thing, because we're still figuring it out right now. So we'll be right back after these short messages, this quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for watching, and stick around. All right, and we're back for our final segment. Thank you, our commercial sponsors that everyone's going to miss in post, especially the audio listeners, mexmerch.com. I don't want to shield too much. I don't want to waste any glorious time with our special guest coming back once again, David Flores. Welcome back, everybody. And, of course, Alyssa, a staple here, no longer a guest. And Marcos, of course, leading the pack here. Now, Marcos, let's go ahead and you know how to wrap this whole thing up. What do we do? Because there's a lot here that I didn't even know about. So what's the next step?
So there's two ways that change happens. One is culture and the other one is politics. And then I just had like a really weird mindset where it's like everyone looks down on Indian and Afro and indigenous people until it comes time to celebrate. The corridos are written by mostly indigenous people. The garb is definitely indigenous. And then so it's like it's not going to be music because we already folded that, and it's just like that's cool.
Yeah.
And then it was like, do you know who Yalitza Aparicio is?
Aparicio. Man,
Aparicio.
Marco, words are hard for you today.
When you don't talk all day and then you have to talk, yeah.
That is true. So to catch up, David, Marco's like in between jobs. He left the job. We used to work together, and so he left the job, and he's off for like a week. But our jobs is sales, so we talk for 8 hours a day straight. So he is rusty as fuck right now. And that is perfect. Also, switching between English and Spanish, not always the easiest thing. So, but yeah,
just to go back
Yalitza.
to Yalitza, she got hate for winning an Oscar. Like a whole bunch of hate mail, like
Yeah.
just because for the uninitiated, because I didn't see Roma actually. This is what she looks like. Like,
Beautiful.
she's the first indigenous Mexican to ever win an Oscar. She'll probably be the only one. But
I don't think so. We got a lot of stars in Mexican cinema.
well,
That is.
I did want to bring that full swing to say, like, when we glorify European standards of beauty, this is what comes out when you just Google Univision TV shows.
Yeah. Blonde, brown hair, blonde.
Yep.
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing.
No, it's actually there's a term for it that I learned from Dr. Shawnee Bird at UCLA during my grad program. I think she coined the term critical media literacy, but that's a skill that I develop with students that's integral to applying like these big academic concepts to like today, like for kids to understand institutional oppression like through the media. You show them commercials and you show them ads and stuff, so it's easier to process. But yeah, like through critical media literacy, like you start analyzing this stuff and it's like, yo, like we're taught to desire certain things, like we're taught to hate certain things. It's rough and it's like so psychological. I think that's a big part of it. Like, how do you undo so much damage that's already been done and at the same time know how to avoid further damage?
So what's really interesting, and I didn't realize that it was the Oscar-winning actress that you guys brought up. Marco, I just texted you an article that I had remembered reading, and I wasn't sure if it was a tabloid or not, but looking back on it, it's actually real. So that group of Latina actresses that pull up on Univision that you just Googled, there was an entire group text that was basically dissing Yalitza and like trying to get her to stop, from winning this Oscar. And it's disgusting, like what they even said in this group message.
I'm looking it up right now, but I did hear that, and it was actually. So when I was doing research into Yalitza, Namor came out. He was one of the few, because he's also an indigenous actor. He came up to defend her.
Well, of course, yeah. But no, that makes no sense. They're news anchors. What the fuck cares? Or Mexican actresses. Oh, gotcha.
Film festival organizers says a group of Mexican actresses try to keep her from being nominated.
Haters, man.
Classic.
That's something I say in my workshops a lot. They teach us one big colonial patriarchal concept is they teach us to be fucking haters, bro. And they teach us to like desire and want what we don't have. And that's what all this takeover and conquest is rooted in. They didn't have shit. They didn't know how to take showers. They had no fucking seasoning in their food. They didn't even know what the fuck the concept of zero was. They're way behind.
They didn't know what zero was.
So what they do? They did the one smart thing they did do. Fucked everything in the process. Is they fucking stole the best from everywhere else, and now we're at where we're at. They took everything, so now they're super wealthy, and the places that got extracted, are struggling to catch up.
That's actually my favorite thing that I like going back to when we talk about the way we think about indigenous people. Is we mentioned earlier, and it was we kind of threw it out there. Was like, oh yeah, they get sick a lot. It's not because we're more prone to sickness. It's because that they were just cleaner people. Like they understood that if you sit and shit all the time, you're gonna get sick. So they invented irrigation. So they're like, wait, we can shit in these rivers and it fertilizes our crops. Yeah, let's go ahead and just keep doing it this way. And so they didn't get sick. They didn't have plague. They didn't have all those things because they understood that being in shit and not cleaning yourself somehow didn't give you the spooky ghosts that made you sick. I mean, I always understand that, like, what do you understand about medicine? But they were doing heart surgery and shit, brain surgery.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. It's like they could do heart and brain surgery.
Yeah, like they wouldn't know what bacteria was, but they knew that if they didn't do it this way, they would die. Yeah. It's like,
so, applying that to today, I think it's valuing what we are born with and what we're taught, what our families have, what our communities have, and like embracing all of that. Because that's what really makes us like who we are. This concept of like, oh, just become an American. What's an American? Y'all fucking swagger jack everybody else's culture.
Right.
Tell me one thing that's American, and I'll tell you where it came from. Like,
Cartoons.
besides, y'all got fucking hot dogs. That's about it. I don't know what else white folks got. Like, and
It's just
fucking-
cartoons and jazz.
and banjos. I don't know. But
Cartoons, jazz, and band. No, cartoons
like
are
rock,
French.
Jazz is created by black folks, you know, and it is good. Marco, you mentioned it earlier. You know, like Americans love to steal folks' culture when it comes to music and whatever, but not to like treating folks with dignity, which is interesting.
Right.
So yeah, organize in your communities, folks. That's what I'm seeing. You know, fucking Biden and Harris have been a major disappointment. And does that mean I'm gonna stop voting Democrat? Probably not until we fucking have more like options.
Thank you.
Love to vote. I'd love
sorry.
to vote Green Party. Can we just fucking elect Bernie one time before he's gone? Like, I promise my boy will
I
forgive
think he's
your debt.
86 already.
He's got one more run in him, bro. I feel like he's gonna make a third party, bro. I might be his campaign manager. I'm desperate.
Hey, long story short, I ain't
But-
paying those loans back. No matter who's president. Shit.
Yeah.
No, but
Defer.
you know, it doesn't mean don't. It's not this or that. It doesn't mean you stop voting or you stop trying to make change in like politics, right? Or like, you know, taking action or whatever. But being realistic, like it starts on the ground in your immediate community. And Washington isn't going to do shit for like Eagle Pass or for Pasadena. Like Eagle Pass has to look out for Eagle Pass. And I'm learning like the reason the ethnic studies like was able to get started in my community was along with getting a lot of help from a lot of other folks. I was able to come home and push and make that shit happen. Maybe it didn't happen if I didn't come home. Who knows? But I know that I came home and I made the effort, and with a lot of help and resources, like we were able to make it happen. So it gives me hope that like, taking action, and like Alyssa, the work she's doing in San Antonio area, like activism isn't always about getting all the W's all the time, but even the little W's build up, and it's better than sitting around and fucking complaining all the time. Because what the fuck is that gonna do? And that's another thing. They fucking teach us to be haters and they teach us to be shit talkers. And it's like,
Well,
we're fucking great fucking sideline quarterbacks, us Mexicans, yeah. But like, motherfucker, go out there and do that shit yourself, then chewy fuck. Like,
right. No, but David, I do want to counter that, like, because that's true. And I would even say, I mean, of course, we're guilty of it. Mexicans, particularly, are guilty of it. But there's a good chunk of young people that are about that life and are like, look, we're not going to have an ozone by the time we're 18, so we got to get going on this. You look at your Greta Thunbergs and stuff like that. But then
ozone is actually
I got a
like
Greta-
the only issue.
I got a Greta Thunberg in my class, man. She writes a fucking marine biology newsletter every month. The kid's
Right.
in 9th grade, like fucking spreading awareness about endangered bird species in our region. Like, I'm like, and this, like, kids fucking care, and that's the power of media too. Like,
Right.
we tap into this shit, we spread awareness and make it meaningful, and
But
the possibilities are limitless.
But like you mentioned, because I mean, now we're in my realm, media, right? Media is going to, if it bleeds, it leads. That's always the best thing to know. So when you get this perception that Zennials or hell, millennials were the forever victims in this culture, that we're lazy and that we don't care about politics and that we're a bunch of complainers, where there is some truth to that culturally within us, but then when the whole youth movement is seen as such, and has always been seen as such. Anytime young people have tried to make a movement happen, the older angry people and people with wealth, they're like, they're a bunch of rebels. They're going to blow things up. Black Lives Matter is a bunch of terrorists, so on and so forth. From a macro and a micro level, how do you deal with that much pushback all the time? Because obviously the smaller steps work, but don't get the press coverage. So if you don't have the access and you don't have the David Flores's, the Alyssa Buntings in their community, you have no one to look to. So how do you get that message that that work is worth it? Because most kids, and even myself, I like reward, instant gratification. We want it. Give it to me now. And I'm gonna do a
Then
Fortnite
you become
dance.
the person that is the David or the Alyssa in the area. That's all you got to do.
And it's just, and the thing is, that's the story of an immigrant, right? Like, you don't got nobody to lead the way. Like, my parents led the way, and I learned from them. And now I'm trying to pass that on. And whether it's, kicking it with my little brother or the little homies or my soccer team or my students, you try to have a positive influence and like put them on,
Mm-hmm.
So I think efforts like this are important, like get kids talking about these subjects. Ethnic studies is important. There's like this national movement to like hide the truth. It's not to shit on America necessarily. You're going to shit on America in the process because we've done shitty things. And, it's like this like reluctance to face the truth. And it's not an effort just to like make the country look bad. It's to learn from our mistakes so that we know how to be better in the future, so that our kids have a better place to live at. They have a place to live that's going to like survive, like all this destruction we're doing to the earth.
Right.
So yeah, man, keep using media. There's all these wonderful creators out there who are breaking down information and what's going down in the world for folks in like a way that anybody could process. And I think that's crucial, making it accessible to everyone in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with what David's saying. Just this was my first year working in politics and like reading policy. I'm like, what the hell does any of this say? Like, how are we supposed
Right.
to like have people in the community be able to read and understand this? And you were saying that a lot of people were like, well, what's the reward here? And a lot of it is like the bigger picture. Like the future is the reward. And it's not about doing anything too crazy. It's just within the realm of like your capabilities. Like one day I just got fucking tired of doing car ads and things like that. Like the work didn't feel meaningful to me. So I went out and found an organization that hired me. And, I'm lucky that I get to call, working for the community my job at the end of the day. And it's about, finding different mutual aid programs. If you don't have the capabilities to like go out into the community and things like that, find the people who are, share their stuff. If you have a couple of dollars to spare, contribute to mutual aid programs and things like that. If you are really concerned about things in your community, there are, neighborhood associations that do hold meetings, and sometimes the city does as well. Whether what they do with that information is, completely up to them, but, it's important to have these discussions, with people who care about it as much as you do.
Yeah, man. Hey, Marco.
We've stopped condos from getting built just by fucking popping into Zoom meetings, like for the city council, and fucking making public comment because they're not used to that shit. And before, like, we didn't know we could even do that. But that's what Americans do all the time. They go into city council, they complain, and they say their 2 cents, and we're like, yo, we got a voice too. So that shit can be powerful. I will say, man, a big thing, you got to let yourself feel. And we've been desensitized. And that's part of decolonizing too. I think that's one of the biggest things. If you're going to focus on anything out there, folks, let yourself feel what it means to really love and be loved, what it means to heal from your trauma, what it means to like be selfless and also look out for others in the process, and how your journey and your goals are going to benefit people along the way. Because we were taught to only look out for ourselves. We were taught to desire material wealth, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Don't mean you can't chase your bag in the process, but like, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people who helped you along the way. And don't forget that we are a people that are rooted in community and in looking out for one another. And we are givers as much as we are healers. So don't forget that part of you either. And listen to your intuition because it's always there. That's all I got.
I think that's all we got too, man. I can't say anything else to top that.
That was a very good epilogue. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, like you said, there's nothing to follow that.
I dropped this mic, but it's expensive as fuck. So this is my material wealth, and all this other bullshit behind me. I don't need any of it. I want healthcare, goddammit. I want healthcare, and I don't want people to be racist to each other for being dark Mexican.
Go back to Cali, bro. You'll have both. Or no, you have healthcare.
How about shit, man? I saw gas prices hitting $6 over there. I'm not. I ain't doing that, man. $6 gas.
It's good. It's a good thing you got all that practice spiking now.
Yeah.
Oh,
you go,
man.
Seth.
Hey, man, between the snowstorms, I don't know, man. The snowstorms that knock off our power grid, the anti-LGBTQ legislation. These are all episodes we're gonna get to with O Menos Mexicanos. But god dang it, this was a great episode, man. And I attribute that mostly to me, but then also our guests. Our guest, of course, what a schmuck. Hey, some things never change, David. Some things never change. But no, I want to very much thank our special guest today, David. Man, we're going to have you back for something. We'll find something for you. You had the facts, you had the knowledge, you had a way to educate the youths out there. Only old people watch our show. I looked at the logistics. But we'll get some youths now with this one. Alyssa, of course. Always wonderful, always insightful, great topic. This is your topic. You own this one, and I would say this is our finest yet. Marcos, thank you for hosting everything, keeping everything in line, keeping me in line, of course. And I'm not going to thank myself, but I am going to plug myself where you can find me at The Mexcellence on all forms of social media, and we're going to get everything finalized. We're going to start posting regularly, and we'll give some discount codes for mexperts.com. Get yourself a shirt, get yourself a hat, get yourself something. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Marcos, if they want to find
shout
you.
out to all the elders out there. We see you. You're loved and you're recognized, elders.
The elders. The elders. No, they're our age,
Put some
man.
respect on the elders.
No,
man.
they're our age, man. They're like 30-ish. 35. No. If the elderly were watching our show, they'd be paying money. They have the money right there, man. So
Like, don't hate on Rogelio in Boise. Trying to get the message, man.
Rogelio out of Boise, you're on the air. We love you. But yeah, Key got some information there. David's a great guest. Key's our inside man. He's our behind the scenes guy. Did the animation for the beginning. But we'll get to you, David. I'll let you plug all your plugs in a minute. But Marcos, where can they find you?
Just type JL Marcos 62 into anything, and I'll pop up. David, where can they find you?
You can find me at David Decolonize. David Decolonize. I don't deal with spammers, so if you're a spammer, you're just gonna agitate me. I'm just gonna block you.
And,
I just want good vibes, folks. Now,
and are you still doing this?
Yes. I will also plug my business, my holistic healing business that me and my partner Almaidani run. Stoned Wrappings. Stoned as in faded. Stoned Wrappings. We have all your holistic needs. We specialize in stone jewelry. So
and
hit us up, folks.
In case you can tell, he is from Southern California. Faded. I haven't heard that in a long time, buddy. I've been out here a little too long. I haven't heard faded this many times in a conversation in a minute.
People say faded all the time here. I just got to take you to South San Antonio.
Oh, fair
There
enough.
you go.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, this North Austin ain't doing it. Alyssa.
Out of touch, Sammy.
I'm always out of touch. Alyssa, where can they find you?
Before I tell them where they can find me, I just want to give a shout out to the people who are just listening. Dude, your fucking hat is amazing. It says support your local Latina.
Oh.
And I fucking love it.
Yes, and it's available on mexmerch.com. If you're Latina and you message me, I'll give you a discount code. That would be, I think, you know what? We had a conversation about our friend Amy who put in the legwork of pretty much unlocking and unmasking and chipping away.
For free, Sam.
I'm gonna give
$20.
I'll give her the hat for free. But
Discount code Amy.
hey, I'll do that.
I love
Discount.
that.
So yeah, that part wasn't recorded on air. We had a homegirl that taught me not to say bitches. So that's the long and the short of it. She's a mutual friend of ours. She'll be back on the show. But yes, Alyssa, thank you for the compliment of the hat. Is something that's very important to me, as is all of you out there listening and watching. Please support the Mexcellence. Keep us alive. Keep us afloat. You can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Actually, no, not iTunes doesn't exist anymore. Apple Podcast. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find us on Twitch. You can find us on YouTube, both at The Mexcellence and The Mexcellence Archive, the archive with the full shows, The Mexcellence with the highlights. And of course, you're watching this on Twitch live. Thank you for watching live. If you're not watching it live, you're missing out. Because I probably cut so much out of this. I didn't. But I could cut so much out of it. I could say all sorts of bad things and you'd miss it. And it'd be lost to time. So don't get lost to time. Don't get lost behind. Come find us. And thank you for watching. And as always, folks, be Mexcellent. And we'll see you next time.
Blessings, y'all.